When did you move to Long Beach? Or like how old were you when you moved to the States?
I was 10, 11,
Oh, damn. So
around
you were in the
then.
Philippines up until 10, 11.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
That's why I say born and raised. Some people will say, no, you were raised out here if you went to middle school and high school, like out here.
Yeah.
But I only say born and raised because I'm still very much culturally, like, traditional Filipino. Like,
Right.
every time I think of my childhood, I think of the Philippines. I think of, like, running around in the streets in the Philippines.
I could imagine if you've been out there since like 11. That's a long
Yeah.
time to be in the
Exactly.
country. Very
I still
interesting.
speak Tagalog, understand Tagalog, like, still speak to my entire family in Tagalog. Like,
And you champion
very
the culture
Filipino.
to this day.
Oh,
So I could
absolutely.
see, yeah.
absolutely. I always say I've been championing being Filipino and having Filipino pride before it became cool to be a minority.
Yeah.
And that'll ruffle some feathers. But like when I first came out here, obviously went to school in Long Beach, there were probably only 3 Asians in the entire school.
Of Long Beach.
You know what I
Wow,
mean?
okay.
And this was like pre woke era, pre anti bullying era. Like I went through racism.
People don't realize and kids were mean. Kids were meaner than adults.
Bro,
They didn't give a fuck.
Oh my God. Like I was Jackie Chan. I was always
Oh my
Jackie
gosh.
Chan. I was Ching Chong. Like
Damn.
I went through the whole racist bullying era and I never not like championed like being Filipino.
You still stood on business
I
back then.
was still very much like I'm proud of being Filipino. Like I had an accent and everything. Probably still do, but like never backed away from like being true to like who I was like culturally. And then I can't even point out when that happened, when the whole like just embracing you know your race and your ethnic background. I don't even know when that happened, but it became cool later on.
I think it became like quote unquote like you're saying cool probably like COVID time
I
or like a little bit
tripping,
before
right?
No, things shifted for
Yes.
sure.
I
Yeah.
would always say I know I'm not tripping because I felt it. Like I felt my fellow like Filipino peers who I feel like they kind of like backed away or shied away from like being Filipino. And then something happened. Something shifted where it was cool to have like a cultural background.
Interesting.
It was cool to be
Yeah.
like not just American. You were also something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was quote unquote cooler to even be diverse.
Yeah,
like now.
exactly.
So it's interesting what caused that shift. I'd be curious to see. I'm sure there's some people that have done studies out there on like what exactly
There
caused
has to
it.
be. Like
Yeah.
there's this thing in the Philippines called the colonial mentality where like you just wanted to be westernized so bad you were embarrassed of like having any Filipino like background.
Wow.
You know, like dude, I moved out here with like you know, other friends that I also went to school with in the Philippines who like 2 years later were like, I don't know how to speak Tagalog anymore. And I'm like,
Damn.
you're fake. Again, like
Embrace
the westernized
your-
mentality, like they want to be embraced by the westernized like culture so bad that they like are so quick to erase like their real, you know, ethnic background.
Maybe it's media that had
It's gotta
somebody-
be.
Yeah, it's gotta be media.
It's gotta be. And then again, like now it's like cool to
Yeah.
be a minority
It's
or
Yeah, it's interesting. And also like in today's modern world, I also think that we have a different perception than people that live in like Kentucky or like, you know, the mid
Right.
I've heard that it's still like pretty racist
Oh
over
my
there.
God,
Like
yes.
nothing ever changed.
we are definitely in a bubble. Living in major cities like LA, New York, I don't know, Chicago, Hawaii maybe. Like we are definitely in a bubble because then I'll go to like middle states
Yeah.
and I'll be like,
Oh, for like shows and shit.
yeah, and I'll be like, oh, I stand out. Not only do I stand out, they probably look at me like I'm like crazy with like red hair, tattoos, and just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Asian girl, like, I don't know. We definitely are blessed to live in these major cities where we're literally in a melting pot of like a bunch of different like ethnicities and
Yeah.
cultures.
I agree. Could
And
you
we're spoiled.
Could you imagine like growing up in like Kansas or some
No.
shit? No shade at Kansas, but just like
Same. No,
you know.
I'm thinking of like the most middle state I could think, like Iowa. Like I can't imagine. Not at all. Like LA, we get the boast of. I mean, the boast, the best of
Combine
any
them.
world. Like living in cities like this.
Yeah. Shout out to LA and California.
For real. And New York. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, and
Such a sexy city.
I love New York too. Speaking of just like the topic of minorities, so being a woman DJ, right? I read some articles about you coming out, and I know that was one of the things that propelled you earlier in your career, still important to you to this day. But what type of challenges did you face being a woman DJ in the music industry, especially when you were starting out, when things were a little bit different?
Being a woman?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I feel like that's a great topic to talk about now in this day and age, like in the climate of things that we're in right now. Because when I was coming up, again, I think I'm hitting like maybe 15 or 16 years.
Wow.
When I was coming up, that glass ceiling was definitely still there. Mm-hmm. And when I say glass ceiling, I meant like if you were a female DJ, you were either one or the other. You were either like a crazy scratch turntablist or you were like an EDM DJ. And I feel like when I was coming up, I didn't know where to like place or fit myself into, because my idea of a DJ was definitely like, my idols were the Beat Junkies. That's what my dad introduced me to. That's what my uncle introduced me to. That's what I was introduced to coming up, which
like
is the Beat Junkies.
DJ, Chop,
yeah, absolutely, all of them.